I am really thankful that we are issuing this third issue of Gesher this year, because it means this year is almost over. It's been a hard year for many of us, and I don't think Gesher has ever before addressed an issue that was as live and as contemporary, in the sense that it was happening every day. The ability that we had by publishing electronically, the ability we had to address issues as they developed was really useful. We started off this year thinking about the bushfire situation, and that led us into thinking about climate change, and that led us into thinking about ecology. But very soon things changed, and we were looking at a new, it's still in some senses an ecological crisis, but one that was certainly a global crisis that brought things to a head. And so we brought in more of looking at the COVID situation as well. And we thought that would be over perhaps by the first edition or two, but it has been a rolling concern, especially here in Victoria, as we've had continual lockdowns. As we're coming out of that at the moment, we know that this is not something that this is not a battle we've won. This is an ongoing issue that needs to keep being addressed. And the issue of climate change and the ecology also is one that will be a long-term issue that we need to address. So I am glad that in this year's Gesher, and here is issue 3 on my iPad. It's online at the moment for you to read as well on the CCJ website. I'm glad that Gesher has been able to address these issues from a whole range of different faith perspectives, including questions of ethics. And in our second edition and in this latest edition, we're talking now about the community. What role has community played in our approach to our ecological crisis, in our approach to our COVID-19 crisis as well? I want to thank the 7 contributors that we have had, and it's appropriate that we've had 7 contributors because of the 7 days of creation. One of those contributors, Ariel Burger, Rabbi Ariel Burger, will be addressing us in a moment. But I also want to pay a special thanks to Deborah Phillips, who provided us with so much artwork in this latest edition. This image here of bushfire, we start off this edition with this image reminding us of where we began this year. And the last of her 6 images that we have shows a creation image that goes along with Genesis 1, the Genesis 1 story, and the goodness of God's creation. I'm going to hand over now. Mark is going to play a video that Rabbi Ariel has prepared for us, just giving us greetings and a short reflection from across the Pacific.
Greetings from far and from near. Far because I'm on the other side of the world right now. Near because I feel very close to all of you and very grateful to be included in this issue of Gesher. This is a very difficult time, a heartbreaking time for many people in the world right now. It's also a time of great compassion and possibility. And the role of faith has never been more important. The role of questioning has never been more important. And our ability to reach out to one another across all of the differences and even the abysses of our varied experiences becomes more and more urgent every day. And the creative, reflective, contemplative thinking, writing, and creation of art that Gesher represents and shares with so many people is deeply moving and deeply important. So my greetings to the executive and the members of the Council for Christians and Jews in Victoria, all of you who are involved in the editorial side of Gesher, who have written, who are writing, who are distributing, who are creating art, sharing of yourselves. I feel very honored and privileged and humbled to be included in this. And I want to share with you a short thought from the Garden of Eden from Professor Elie Wiesel. Professor Wiesel pointed out that in the story of the Garden of Eden, all of the participants receive some sort of punishment or consequence of their actions. Eve, Adam, and the serpent. And we must wonder what the consequences are for God, but that's a discussion for another time. There was a great Hasidic master who asked a question about the curse or the punishment of the serpent. If you remember, the serpent was cursed after the eating of the tree of knowledge. The serpent was cursed to crawl on its belly, to eat of the dust of the earth, and to be engaged in perpetual conflict with humanity. And a great Hasidic master, the Rebbe of Kutsk, asked a question about the middle consequence. The snake would eat of the dust of the earth. And the master of Kutsk asked, what kind of punishment is that? What kind of curse? It sounds rather like a blessing. The snake will eat of the dust of the earth. That means the snake will never go hungry. Everywhere the snake goes, there will be dust. There will be food and sustenance. What kind of punishment is this? But the Kutsker Rebbe answered, that itself is the curse. To never be hungry is the worst punishment of all. To never long or yearn for something new, to never need anything or anyone, to be so armored up, so self-sufficient, that relationship becomes impossible is the worst curse of all. This is the curse of the serpent. And our blessing, Professor Wiesel would point out, is our yearning and our need. And so at times like these, when our need as human beings for contact, for closeness, for healing, for meaning, for protection, and for a strategy built on meaning for the future of the earth itself, are all very much on our minds and hearts. Our need is our blessing, and our ability to share our yearning with one another is our blessing. So thank you for sharing your yearnings, your visions with so many people and with me. Many blessings to all of you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Ariel. And I am very grateful for his reflections. In his reflections, he also paid respect to Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who died during the preparation of this edition of Gesher. And we too also pay respects to him and for all his contribution that he has made to Christian and Jewish dialogue. You might be able to see here, one of the things I'm very proud of is the poetry that we've been able to include in this edition. And Philip Harvey has 7 creation sonnets that are beautiful and very enjoyable to read, and lovely use of language. We've invited Rachael Kohn, who will be familiar to many of you from her ABC days, to give us a reflection on the year that has passed, and she has responded poetically as well.
Hello, I'm Rachael Kohn, and this is for Gesher. We have all heard that COVID has a silver lining. It's reminded us of all our self-centered whining that's filled our blogs and Twitter with umpteen ways of getting slimmer and fitter. Just eat meat and salt and drink filtered water. No, eat more grains, the more paleo, the better. Or give up wine and spirits and beer and get on that bicycle in all your Lycra gear. And women who've reached a certain age, don't let your cheeks turn into baggage. Just book that trip to Thailand, but don't let on. Your friends will be too polite to say, you look drawn. Yes, life before COVID was serious business. So much of it was a modern version of Narcissus, who gazed in the mirror and liked what he saw and wished it could remain forever without flaw. But then suddenly, the bush was on fire. Green turned black, and it got drier and drier. Birds fell from the sky and animals burned. People lost lives. Something had turned. We no longer lived in a fool's paradise, and political finger pointing would not suffice to bring home the message loud and clear. We only had ourselves to fear. Our preoccupations with the life beautiful and our disregard for the wise and dutiful among us who cautioned that better bush care would reduce the fires and smoke-filled air. And then when everything turned calm, we woke up to a new COVID dawn. What seemed a variant of the common cold was like the Assyrians coming down on the fold, killing all the old and infirm in their path, like a biblical reckoning of God's wrath. Was it punishment for our inward gaze, or an opportunity to change our ways? Perhaps it's both. We are free to choose whether to plan our summer holiday cruise or stay home and help our economy and delight in our homegrown gastronomy. But social distancing had its cost, and the message does sometimes get crossed. Keep 1.5 meters away from each other, but close enough to visit your grandmother, who's on the other side of the glass in an aged care home that used to have class, but today is struggling to keep COVID out and the residents healthy and free to walk about. We've seen things in our society we never knew, how COVID struck the incautious few. But frontline workers with compassion and heft helped the vulnerable with little strength left, but they too were struck down in their masks and surgical gown. So much dedication on show this COVID year. That's what I know. It's not all been a tragedy to be reminded of our humanity, of our hope, and our love of life in the midst of overwhelming strife. The most important message is not to be brave, not to be courageous, a hero or slave. It is to never lose sight of our ability to love and transform our world with hope from above, not God's strong hand and an outstretched arm to rescue us from the flood of pandemic harm. But faith in the tradition has taught us this, that the purpose of life is not bliss. It's not to be slim and pretty and rich, nor life going smoothly without a hitch. But just when you think you deserve more, do an act of kindness you've never done before. Don't wait for the accolades you want to hear. Give them to others who are near. We are all in our own state of lockdown. Step out of yours. Wipe off the frown. Yes, COVID has ravaged the scorched earth, and of hard times there'll be no dearth. But we are resilient and good-willed and true. That's what I think of me and of you. So be of good cheer and don't fall prey to evil conspiracies that venal tray, but to the call that whispers your name, for you to answer, Hineni, here I am. Thank you.
Thank you to Rachel for that. And I also want to pay just briefly credit to this. In this edition, we didn't just have Christian and Jewish voices. We invited 2 others from other faith communities to express their views as well. And I want to say thank you to Zalea Keskin, who gave us a reflection from the Muslim community, and also to Winton Higgins, who gave us a reflection from a Buddhist perspective on the year that has been passed. There's been so many communities that have contributed to Gesher over this period, and we look forward now to 2021 and whatever the Lord may give us in this year to come, but hopefully another Gesher will be on the table again. Thank you.